What's the most important thing that has happened in Russia these days? Besides the loss of lives, of course. I think it is the loss of hearts. The country I was born and raised in, Russia, has been going through some fundamental changes. And the changes are very ugly. If we leave everything except for the most important things out, we'll get down to this one question. What is happening inside the hearts of Russian people so it prevents them from finding peace, taking responsibility for their actions, repenting, and asking for forgiveness? And this is something I would like to talk about today. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, you will not find any propaganda, BS, or lies at this channel. Instead, you will find plenty of truth, common sense, and logic. And some emotions too, and there will be plenty today. And that's going to be mostly about emotions today. You know, after, at every introduction, I say, this is Inside Russia, where the usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. Perhaps I should change that, because what is usual Russia these days? Definitely not usual Russia for me. It's not what it is now, so I'll have to think about that. In this video, you will not find any facts, numbers, figures about Russia, about its economy, society, government, none of that. I'll be sharing my thoughts on what I find most important. I was recently invited to participate in an interview, and the host, while introducing me, said I was an expert on Russian economy. Well, that's not entirely true. Yes, indeed, I know a great deal of Russian economy. I've been monitoring it and informing the world of the demise it's going through. But besides being an economist and studying Russian economy, I am a human being with a set of values. I study Russia and its people. I study its history. And that is much more important to me and much, much bigger than just studying Russian economy. So this is what I consider that what this channel is about. I study Russia's history. I try to get to the root of the problems that Russia is having right now. And that's so much bigger than Russian economy. The reason I want to bring up and discuss this topic today of Russians taking responsibility for their actions. I've seen things recently. I have traveled not too long ago, and I've met quite a few Russians personally. Not through telephone conversations and through, communicating, but personally. I've met lots of Russians and Ukrainians too. And I saw them interact. And this is what my observations is what I would like to share with you today and discuss. I invite everyone to join the live stream chat after the end of this message. What I'm going to share with you is I find disturbing and timely. And it's happening right now, and it's not looking too good. Now, I have recently traveled to Turkey. Some private business and some leisure. I tried to take a few days to actually vacation. For a few days, I deliberately chose to stay in a hotel where thousands of Russians surrounded me. Not the kind of Russians I'm used to seeing every day. Those who have fled the war, the unfairness, the authoritarianism, not the good-hearted Russians with values that resonate with mine, that have fled Russia, I was surrounded by the Russians who still live in Russia, who still pay taxes, who still vote, who still support what's going on in Russia, who still support Putin. And, well, I guess it's also important, who still have money to vacation in Turkey. There are plenty of those. And to my huge surprise, I also met quite a few Ukrainians. I was found myself being surrounded by the Ukrainians from Ukraine. And they also came to vacation. This video today is about sharing my experiences. So, what kind of Russian people, who the Russian people that I met? They were mostly families with children from all over Russia, from large Russian cities, from Moscow, St. Petersburg. They're all fairly well-to-do. Well, obviously, they can afford a vacation to spend $2,000 to $3,000 for a couple weeks. And I've spoken to quite a few of them. None of them work directly for the government. Well, at least they didn't say. None of them were siloviki. Well, siloviki, those who do work for the government, they are not allowed to leave Russia. So I think it's fairly safe to say that those who vacationed, they were not, they had nothing to do with the regime. So these people vacationed outside Turkey, and those who work for Russian government, they usually vacation inside Russia. They're not allowed to leave. So I've met and spoken to a dozen of fairly regular, fairly well-to-do Russians, and I wanted to learn how do Russians feel about what's currently going on. How do they feel about the war? And how they have changed from the last time I spoke to them back in summer of 2025. 2024. I remind you that the last time I spoke to Russians and faced Russians in large numbers was in Turkey in 2024, a year ago. Now, it's been 3.5 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. Many things have happened since, big and small. Many people have died, both in Ukraine and in Russia. Russian propaganda has transformed ways of how information flows into the heads of Russian people. Russian economy, well, it's not doing well is quite an understatement these days. It's demising. And we are seeing signs of it everywhere, well, proof of that. Russia is simply not the same country that it used to be. And something that has not surprised me, but most of Russians that I've spoken with, to them, not much has changed. To them, life is fairly as usual. Nothing extraordinary is going on. The same as the last year, they vacation, they work, they have fun, their children are growing, their businesses. Well, there's a difference here. Last year, when we talked about their businesses, they shared information and they talked about it, but this year was different. They didn't talk about their businesses any longer. They didn't talk about their work. And they didn't talk about living standard when they were around me and when I asked them. They preferred to avoid that topic. And amazingly to me, they still travel and vacation in Europe. And in 2025, according to some Russians, it's become even easier for Russians to get a Schengen visa that allows to travel to Europe freely. To them, who live inside Russia, it is easier. Not to us. To the Russians who have decided not to support the war and have left Russia, to us, it's still nearly impossible to get it. Well, some things never change. Now, the change in the mood of people from 12 months ago is clear and very well seen. I saw a big difference from last year. In 2024, all was well in the minds of people who lived in the Kingdom of Russia. In 2025, talking to them feels different. You see, it's not what they say, but that's how they say it. That's how they act. That's how they look at it. That's how they, you know, use body language. There is much more tense, stress. They're much more stressed, and they talk so much less than last year. And talking to them, meeting them and getting them to talk, it has become so much more challenging. Talking to Russians has become a thing shallow. You meet them and try to talk, and they still talk. They introduce themselves, but they're very hesitant to open up. Everyone is watching very carefully what they say these days, and I had a feeling that everyone is suspicious of everyone. When I try to speak to people, I usually do. I'm a pretty outgoing guy. Just a small talk. A lot, this first time I noticed it with Russians, they looked at me like, why is he talking to me? What is his agenda? Now, I read body language pretty well, and of course they don't say it, but the way they act, the way they position, the way they move, the body parts, they look at you, it tells you volumes. For the past 3.5 years, I've been witnessing the most drastic change Russia has ever gone through. Some say that, the changes really started happening much earlier in 2024, and I agree. And it's just this last 3.5 years, it's been the acute phase of the changes. It's been the war. And the changes are very ugly. They're fundamental. They're very dark. And they're leading to country's demise. They are burying everything and everyone. And I see it every day, and I share it with you. I see what's been happening and where these changes are leading to. In the last year, none of Russians who I spoke to, none of them even remotely saw the catastrophe happening in Russia. It was very odd. I mean, I spoke to the groups of Russians, and at times I felt like I was crazy because people around me talked of something that I was witnessing, but they saw it differently. And I witnessed it with my own eyes, but they contradicted, saying, hey, things are not the way that you're describing them. They told me completely opposite things. And they said things like, oh, Russia is fine. They said 1 year ago. Well, you know what? They don't say that any longer. No one in Russia can deny the ugly changes Russia is going through. Do you know what they do these days when they are asked? They don't talk. But that's generally when I ask about Russia, about things about the economy, what they do, how things are in general, the prices, that's, things like that. The real tragedy is happening not inside Russia. The real tragedy is happening in Ukraine. Every day, innocent people get killed. 3.5 years after Russia attacked and invaded the country, no one in Russia still can explain me why Russia attacked Ukraine and what Russian troops are currently doing on Ukrainian land. No one still can't explain. And I've spoken to many Russians about exactly that. And you know what? They don't speak about that. The topic is a taboo. And when you're in Turkey, when anywhere outside of Russia, I've traveled to different countries too and spoke to Russians. It's not like if you say, speak up your mind, you'll be arrested by the KGB. No. In other countries, you can speak freely, at least about Russia and about the war in Ukraine. And they don't speak of that. The topic is taboo, and it looks like most Russians have decided not just to not speak about it, they decided to refuse to think about it. And that's the worst kind of censorship that can be out there, the internal censorship or self-censorship. I saw it happen last year too. In 12 months, it's gotten worse. Most Russians have built and perfected this reality for themselves where there's no war. To them, it is not the war, it is just the special military operation happening somewhere far away, far, far away from their home, from their lives, and it doesn't concern them at the slightest. All admit that their lives have changed. They have become, how do I put that, more challenging. It's when I compare how Russians that I met in Turkey personally and Russians who I speak that are still in Russia, when I compare, I hear the very same tone of voice, tone of speech. Okay, when they talk about Russia and their lives, yes, the country is changing. Yes, you can't deny that. But the changes, they have nothing to do with the war. The changes and the war are simply not connected. The war is not the reason. The war for them exists as Immanuel Kant's Ding an sich, the thing in itself. That's a philosophical concept. The war is not their concern. It was not their decision to start the war. Well, they don't call it the war in the first place. They call it the special military operation, and most people call it the situation. Not the war, the situation. The situation is not their concern. To start the situation was not their decision. It was not their responsibility, and it still is not their responsibility in the slightest. And it is not the reason their lives are becoming worse. Therefore, they don't think about the war. And they certainly don't discuss that. I'm not sure what's happening inside families. When in the USSR, when I was growing up, truth was told inside families, usually in the kitchens. There was plenty of tea, and the Soviets liked to drink tea, and then they coined this term, speaking in the kitchen. Perhaps people still speak of the war in the kitchens in Russia, but I have no clue, because that is so personal. The strangers and outsiders are not let into that territory of trust. And they certainly keep silence outside their kitchens. As I mentioned before, I met plenty of Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians, you know what, they haven't changed much. They're still the same people that I saw in Ukraine for so many years. I spent about a year in Ukraine, in Odessa, in Zaporizhia, in Kiev, and in Kharkov. I know those cities quite well, and I know lots of Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians that I saw in Turkey, they're still the same. Of course, they're shaken. Of course, you can see the tragedy. People can't hide it, even if they don't talk about it. But you can pick it up in the air, so to speak. But they're still the same, decent, normal people. I don't know how they came to Turkey. They were mostly women and children, and some men too. I spoke to a few of them, and I heard of two cities they came from, Zaporizhia and Dnieper. The biggest thing that struck me was how Ukrainians and Russians interacted. If you stay in a hotel, you run into other people all the time, everywhere. In swimming pool, in restaurants, on the beach, everywhere, okay? And I personally have very hard time meeting Ukrainians. I am full of shame. I always feel uneasy. I have hard time looking into their eyes. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to act. My country is destroying Ukraine and killing Ukrainians for the reason I don't understand. And there shouldn't be any reason good enough to kill people, right? So, this is a personal thing, very personal thing I'm sharing with you folks. I really have a hard time. I'm ashamed to look into their eyes. Because what can I say? There's only one thing comes to mind, and I keep on saying that. And I know it doesn't cut it. I keep on saying, please forgive us. Nothing else. At least nothing comes to my mind. And every time Ukrainians speak to me, and they do, I'm honored. And every time a Ukrainian shakes my hand, I find a little piece of personal salvation. Well, folks, it seems that I'm a minority. Russian people have no problem talking to Ukrainians. Russian people have no problem being bold to them, They don't care much. They get upset when Ukrainians switch to their language. And Ukrainians always switch to Ukrainian, even if they speak Russian between themselves, Because Russian and Ukrainian, some Ukrainians grew up speaking Russian, so that's a big thing in Ukraine. And then even when we speak Russian between themselves, among themselves, when they hear someone from Russia goes by, they automatically switch to Ukrainian. And Russians get upset. And I don't understand why. And they have guts to tell it to the Ukrainians. And Russians don't understand why Ukrainians aren't friendly to them. I heard an incredible conversation, okay? One man was saying from Russia, he seemed like judging by his accent, he seemed like he was from one of the provinces in the central western Russia. He was saying, well, look, what's going on there? It's just between our countries. And we are here now, we are facing each other. And so let's be humans, let's be people, let's be civil, let's hang out, let's be nice to each other. We should put all that is happening with the countries, that's far away, someplace else, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I overheard the conversation. And the Ukrainian man was looking at him like, are you out of your mind? And I was looking at the guy with the same kind of expression, Was that Russian man serious? He was. He meant it. And that seems to be the opinion of the majority. What's happening between the countries is just none of our concern, okay? Because it's the government, it's Putin, it's whoever, that are fighting. NATO, Americans, it's a proxy war. I don't know, this nonsense they pump out into the minds of Russian people is incredible. But, okay, they come up different excuses, but I say, well, we're here now. Let's just be nice to each other. What can I say to these people? Well, before I jump there, Ukrainians were gracious and civil. No conflicts, no fights, nothing like that. They looked when the situations like that came up with Russian language and Russians challenging them. They looked at them like, are you crazy? So I salute them. What can I say about those Russians people? And I think it's generally about Russian people. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. I feel that we are so different, that I'm from a different planet. Is it the book from Venus and Mars? They're from Mars, I'm from Venus, or Venus from Mars. Anyway, they're aliens. I'm convinced that more than ever now, I've thought about it, the change that might come to Russia in the future, that change will have to come from the inside of Russian people. The people will have to change. They are the source of all changes inside. Not even in the head, The head you can be smart and with clear mind, but it's what's in here. That's what counts. The changes, any kind of changes, they always come from within. And if Putin and his clique are gone, let's say tomorrow, and they will be gone sooner or later. I mean, Putin is not immortal, even if he's gone, even if there are new people in charge of Russia, if Russian people remain the same, they will allow another Putin to be on top of their heads and sit there controlling their lives completely. Personalities, characters will change, but the system will stay the same. The system must be changed and broken inside Russian people, inside their hearts. If they find this war the thing in itself, then in the future there will be other wars, many. It's just they will be started by different people, and the different reasons will be given. But they will be wars. Right here, that's where it's got to change. The strongman culture in Russia must disappear. Russian people must start taking responsibility. They must repent. It is the key concept. And I've said it before. God forgives us. God forgives sins. God gives our chances to start all over. And, for those of us not us, but for those out there who don't believe in God, I do. I'm a Christian. You can replace the word God with the word universe. It doesn't change anything. You certainly do believe in the existence of universe, right? The concept is absolutely the same. There is still chance for Russian people. There is always a chance. There is always a chance for forgiveness. Okay, that's God's love. But they can be forgiven. The Russians can be forgiven only if they do their part. And so far, I'm seeing that they're just going further and further into darkness. I have not seen one person who is ready to take responsibility. Taking responsibility is very hard. I know by myself because I did that after the start of the war, and I feel responsible. I did not make that decision. I did not press that button. I did not send rockets to Ukraine. But I am a Russian citizen, and I had been paying taxes in Russia, and I had been allowing Russian politicians to seize more and more power. And that's my collective decisions, along with many millions of Russian people, have led to where we are now. And it's very hard. Knowing that it's your fault is so painful. Knowing it's your responsibility, it's so darn painful. It makes you go insane. And I don't see anyone taking responsibility. Russian people must stop the war. They must take responsibility. They must take everything into their own hands. It's not the state, it's not Putin, it's them. They are the people. And although Russian state doesn't think so, well, it knows so, but it really doesn't like the idea, it doesn't change a thing. They are still the people. They have all the power. But they must understand that. They must take responsibility and they must start taking actions. But every single Russian must take personal responsibility for this criminal war. And I keep on repeating that. Don't forget that. And they must repent. They must beg for forgiveness from Ukrainians, from the rest of the world, really. They must come to terms with Ukraine. And then they must help Ukraine to rebuild itself. They must pay for it. Russia must start acting as a responsible and humble member of the global community. And only then Russia will turn onto the right track. Do you know what is said? I talk to Russian people quite a bit, and I have talked for the past 3.5 years, and every single time it's never failed. Every single time I tell that to Russians. They're clueless. They misunderstand me. They don't understand the concept of taking personal responsibilities for the actions of their country, for the war. For what? They say, we personally have done nothing. I am not guilty of anything. I did not make decision. There's nothing I can do. I don't have any power. I'm just a small little person. Those powers above me control everything. And what Putin and what our government is doing, I have no say. I have no control over it. Therefore, I am not responsible. That's what I've heard from the Russians over and over again. And they get so aggressive when they speak about that. And this is the opinion of everyone, those Russians who are educated, smart, well-to-do, I talk to Russians who are not so fortunate to vacation in Turkey or in other countries and vacation at all, who are still in Russia. I speak to all kinds of Russians, but the opinion is the same. Not my responsibility. And that's just the responsibility part. Okay? And when I bring up this topic of repentance and, God forbid, the reparations, paying to rebuild Ukraine out of their taxes or out of their pocket, when I talk about acting responsibly in the future, most Russians become aggressive. The biggest thing that ticks them off is reparations. When I talk that Russia must rebuild Ukraine. And our conversations usually get heated and they raise their voice and then they try to change topic. They go irate sometimes. The usual response is, what? My money? Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to spend my money to rebuild Ukraine? Who do you think you are? Why are you saying that? Who do you work for? Paying reparations to Ukraine. You are a traitor to Russia. Do you even love Russia? I've been asked so many times. I do. I do love Russia. I love peaceful Russia. I love Russia that was before. Unfortunately, that's not Russia that exists now. And I alone have this opinion. It seems like I've been talking about it for so much time now. It feels like I am against 140 plus million Russians who aren't taking responsibility and who aren't repenting and don't even see that happening. Now, I called this video, "Will Russians Take Responsibility for Ukrainian War?" I don't see them happening. I don't see them doing that. I don't see that happening. I remember I told you in the beginning that the changes that Russia is undergoing are ugly. They are. This is the biggest change. Russians are changing right here on the inside. And unfortunately, the change is not to the good. It's like their hearts are getting coarser, more coarse, more hard. It's like they have more fear, and the fear is like poisoning them inside. And it happens more and more. What I saw in Russians a year ago is quite different from what I saw just a couple weeks ago. It's not getting any better. I don't see them having even a slightest thought of taking responsibility. And responsibility is the first step. Asking questions why Russian troops are on Ukrainian soil. Asking questions of what is the reason? Why did Vladimir Putin give an order to and send rockets to Ukraine in February of 2022? Why? Why did he do that? And then understanding that they are a part of the country. They're the taxpayers, the voters. And taking responsibility, that's the step number one. The initial step. And they're not any closer to that step. It seems like they're floating away further and further. Friends, this is not propaganda. Sometimes I'm asked in the comments, who do you work for? Most likely it's Kremlin trolls, but sometimes even people in the West ask me. It's merely my experiences and my emotions. I cannot estimate everything in numbers and figures, but I certainly can estimate in emotions. And this is how I'm feeling right now, and I'm sharing it with you. So to speak, fresh off the boat, fresh off from Turkey. Things are not well. They are getting worse, and the demise that I speak of so much is not that important. It's the demise of the country. It's the demise right here in the hearts. That is what is the most important. The values. And they are deteriorating. Thank you so very much. Something I'd like to discuss with you today. I invite everyone to the live stream chat. I'm turning it on right now. It's been a while since I did that. Unfortunately, I've been having technical difficulties, and this is what I'd like to start with. Today, I'd like to give you a little update on what's going on. I just saw a message from Lorraine Prasnowski. Thank you, Lorraine, for being such a great part of Inside Russia community. Lorraine was one of the initial members of Inside Russia. She started watching my videos when I was getting started. Now, let me turn the comments on. If you're not seeing them, please refresh your page. You will see them. A couple rules, they're not that difficult. No discussion of US politics here, and just please be nice to each other. Respect and never insult anyone. That's all. I would like to give a shout out to the best moderation team on internet: Lorna, Mammy K, Bob S, Harry Potman, and Amir. Thank you, friends, for being just great friends and the best mods out there. Moderators are the reason why the Inside Russia is the best community on internet. And if you would like me to answer a question or comment, please keep on posting it in all caps and putting Inside Russia after @ so that way I see it highlighted in a large orange box. I see it much easier. If I don't answer your question or comment, doesn't mean I ignore you. It means that I just didn't see it. There are so many comments, and just keep on posting. Eventually I'll run into it. And I am opening live stream chat for myself now. And it's fantastic to see everyone. You know, I missed live streams with live stream chat. I've released quite a few videos. I want you to know that I love live stream chats so much better than just making videos, because I feel like I'm among people. I feel feedback. I see the feedback. I see the responses. I see the mood of people, you know, things like that. And somehow I'm not seeing the comments myself. Okay, there you go. Now, friends, the reason I've been releasing videos is because I've been having technical difficulties every single day. Last week, and it happened again yesterday. Yesterday was no electricity. I started filming the video and then editing it, and they shut off electricity at night for 6 times here. 6 times. Sometimes for a couple minutes, sometimes for 15 minutes, and so forth. Know that I like live streams so much better. And easier. Live streams are easier to release a video. Even, imagine this, live stream is ready. Okay, I know everything, I know the message, I prepared it, I rehearsed it, and so forth. Now, let's say I start at midnight. I finish at 5 a.m. It's a sleepless night for me, guaranteed. Okay, and I cannot prepare it before because I hope for live stream. Okay, and then when something goes wrong, then I start filming, and then just sleepless night. I don't like those. These technical problems have been messing up my schedule. I will upload a couple daily snippets. Well, one daily snippet with a few topics today. That's been messed up as well. So, anyway, fantastic to see everyone. Lorna, are you the only mod here today? Looks like it. We will not make it long, 15-20 minutes max. Please be nice, everyone, to Lorna. Don't make her life difficult. Please support and care for her. She is Super Lorna. That's the new name that we discussed. Do you like it? Super Lorna? Super Lorna and Super Mammy K. Leitmotif, Woody, howdy friends, Jodes, Scott, Mr. Kaliskin, Angela, Sam, Tom W, Keith, Pamela, the usual suspects, Larry Barth, Kiwi, Stefan. Good evening, friends. Good Nabend. Good afternoon. Pinda the Peanut, Bakerstock, Dale, Joseph, Kermo, Lorraine Prasnowski. Again, Lorraine, thank you for coming. You're such a fundamental part of pillar of Inside Russia. You know, it's fantastic to see you again. You know who? I don't know who. North Sweden, Alu, Benjamin, Tracy, John Richards from Colorado, Terry Carter, howdy friends, Palve Flex, Reinhard, Stig Patterson, Lilith Eden, Alexandru Chisalka from Bucharest, Steven, Matt Slats, Philip, Jeremy Taylor, Goran, Michael, friends, thank you for coming. It's fantastic to see everyone. Sad message today. I've been thinking about what I saw back in Turkey. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, if you have questions, I will be happy to try to answer them. Dale, good presentation today. Reflects on some of the sadder aspects of humanity. Benjamin, good evening, friend. Glad to see you again. I'll say hello to you again. God bless, and that you're not at the front. I think Ukrainians already know you're a good guy. Well, the ones who know me, they don't have a problem with me. But the thing is, not too many Ukrainians know me. To most, I am just a regular Russian man, a regular Russian person. And there were so many moments, every single day, dozens of moments, when I walk right next to Ukrainian family and they're having a good time and, speaking Ukrainian. And I'm kind of like even scared to look at them, to look into their eyes, I met a lady from Zaporizhia. It's a city in eastern Ukraine. Historically, it had a very, very close ties to Russia. They all spoke Russian. I was in Zaporizhia. I was in charge of a large manufacturing plant there a long time ago, close to 20 years ago. And I spent quite a lot of time in the city. Fantastic city. Very, very educated people, very bright people. I remember the city. I have personal connection to that place, And I asked the lady if they get bombed. And she looked at me with disbelief. She says, "What do you mean?" "Of course we do, every single day. They send missiles and drones every single day." Now, friends, you tell me, what would you tell to that lady? You were standing right in front of her. There's a family, kids playing, and she's very nice. She's not a mean person, And then we talk, and then she tells me, yes, they bomb us every single freaking day. I personally, I'm lost. I felt very uncomfortable, and I didn't know what to say. I said, "Please forgive us," and she looked at me, like, okay. It's still in my head. Keith, yes, you are a mutant. Superpowers. Thank you, Keith. Yeah. It's hard to be a super mutant, Can you change the opening monologue to "You will not hear BS and you will see Kebabnet"? Sam the Legend K, in case you're here for the first time or you fresh in this channel, Sam the Legend K is a great guy, one of the pillars of Inside Russia. I gotta tell you, he's Mr. Humor of Inside Russia. Comes up with pretty funny things, but never trust his dating. Never take his dating advice, okay? Terry Carter, Constantine, I've noticed changes in your phrasing on our live streams and videos. I'm sure it breaks your heart. It does. It does. Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne passed away. I just saw the news. I liked this guy. He was a good performer. Alexander from Bucharest. Really enjoy your presentations. Do you think Putin regime will eventually go down, or they will keep running Russia no matter what? Nothing lasts forever. Putin is not immortal, and his regime is definitely... His regime is cracked. There are cracks all over, and they're getting stronger. His regime was based on money, and Putin doesn't have any money anymore. Just give it some time. I don't expect it to be like the USSR 70 years. But we will see a very hard time situation economically in Russia in the second part of 2025, and 2026 will be disastrous. Okay? By the way, tune in to tomorrow's economic news update. I'm going to be talking... I have so many economic news for this past week. A lot of things have happened. I'll definitely tell you about that. But don't forget, Putin's power is money. Putin's foundation is money. Now he doesn't have any money. He is bringing the degree of oppression up. Because if you don't have money, you have to put people into fear. You can't buy them anymore. You can make them scared. And that's what he's doing right now. But that's not going to work for a long time. Goran, inside Russia, you cannot take all the negativity personally. Well, unfortunately, I do. You are not the god Atlas who had the world on his shoulders. Goran, I don't think of that. I think what I have to do, and I do it. And I don't really find many Russians who are on my side. Here, I am surrounded by friends and by like-minded people in Tashkent, all over. In Tashkent Breakfast Club, and really a lot of people who are not part of Tashkent Breakfast Club, the Russians. Sometimes I spot them on the street and I know they're Russians. I know they're refugees. I come and introduce myself and speak to them. They're my kind of people. But that's it. I do what I do, and it feels like I do it against the wind. I do take all this negativity personally, unfortunately. And there's not much I can do about that. That's who I am. Michael, hello, Constantine. Glad you're in good health. Well, it's I'm still coughing, and I'm not feeling well at all. I had every single night, and the last week was sleepless. I went to bed at 5. When I upload my video, I literally fall down out of exhaustion. 5 in the morning. I don't like overnights, and it happened last night. So I'm not kind of feeling that good. Sorry, don't mean to complain. Janice Burgess, howdy. Question from Christian Kruse. Do you see it ending for Russia and Putin? Will China take a part of Siberia? There are good chances of that. Perhaps not by land, but by proxy, by installing its government. It's too far in the future. No one can really predict that, or forecast that. China is watching. China is ready. China is eager. That's what I see. China is not Russia's friend. And you know what? That's a funny change. For 3 years, they were saying in Russia, oh, China is our friend. It'll help us. It'll bail us out. And now they're seeing the hostile actions that China has been taking against Russia. And then even Russian Z patriots, Vaenkory, the propaganda, they're openly saying, well, you know what? China is not our friend. What's going on with China? They're backstabbing us. They're traitors, And this is becoming the mainstream opinion. So China is definitely after Russia. How China will do it, no one knows. And of course, I see it ending for Russia. Russia, in the state of its current state, will not exist. I don't know what it's going to be, but the shakes, the earthquake that Russia is going through right now, it's becoming too violent. And the violent earthquake destroys everything. That's what's gonna... Putin has created this process. He started this process of this tremors. That would be the right word, tremors, okay? And then it's gonna bury him and everyone around him. And all these people who stole so much money in Russia, and they're saying, oh, we are rulers of Russia, the masters. That's gonna bury them too. Mark my words, please. Lorna, how we doing on time? 1:13 here in Tashkent. Let's do about 5 more minutes. How about that? Terry Carter, thank you so much. You know what? It's a compliment. I consider you Russian American. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, American government doesn't consider me American. Moreover, it's trying to keep me away from the country. JP, thank you so much. Thank you. Very heartwarming words. Thank you. The support that I receive through PayPal and through Patreon and Buy Me Coffees is really much appreciated. It's much valued. But the words like this, from JP, from you, and from others, they're priceless. They're absolutely priceless. Thank you, friends. Everyone keeps asking, what is the crown all about? I don't know. Mommy K is here. Super Mommy is here. RG, China is supplying components for Russian munitions. I cannot comment on that because there are rumors. At the same time, China, I don't understand why would they be risking supplying the components. Russians must be circumventing the sanctions and somehow buying components from private companies in total secrecy. That I can believe in. But that the Chinese government is supplying Russia components, I hard time believing that. Alexandru, also a lot of different obvious things that involve KGB happen and still happen every day in Romania. I'm sure they are involved, yes. There's no question in my mind. Leitmotif, maybe Russians are afraid to voice their inside thoughts because no one knows if the audience may be Siloviki. In Turkey, I don't believe that's the case. Even if they're... Siloviki are not allowed to get outside of Russia. Russians definitely are scared, and that fear, I see in their eyes, I see in their bodies. They reek fear, okay? That's what they wanted. That's everything is going according to the plan. Is that the part of the plan too? To make people fear. So, and that's not a good feeling when you fear. But you know what? It shouldn't be enough to not to speak of that. J. James, when will the oligarchs have the private armies? Wait till Putin stumbles and till he falls to make their moves. Probably not. I will speak of the private armies. I'll give an update. The first time I spoke, I made a live stream, was on May 2023. About 6 weeks before, Prigozhin and his private army staged a successful mutiny. Okay, so I kind of, well, anyway. So I will make an update. I think that the oligarchs have private armies to keep their riches. And who's going to make the move, and they have all the resources for that, are the Siloviki. The KGB, the federal police, perhaps the army. There are rumors about something is cooking inside the army now. If in the following days we will see 3 or 4 arrests of high-profile generals, then we will know that there is something cooking in the Russian army. There are rumors, and where rumors, usually something is happening. Okay. Benjamin, I heard of death of oligarchs and redistributing of assets companies. Well, no wonder you heard. I talked about it yesterday. I made a video. Check it out. That's a very good one. I'm proud of it. So, a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up. Matt Slats, Constant for president. No, thank you, but no, thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you. I'm not cut out to be made a politician. Not for me. Pinda the Peanut, we outside Russia really have no clue which Russian is ever to be trusted. That is sad and frightening. This excludes you, Konstantin. Well, thank you so much, Pinda. Thank you. I see where you're coming from, and I understand this point of view, and this is partially what this stream is about. The Russians are floating more and more into darkness. They're not doing anything to bring themselves back to the light. And like I said, I have a plan for Russians. It is taking responsibility, changing things, repenting, acting responsibly, showing the rest of the world, hey, you know what? Things happen, okay? But we are over it, and we will try to prove that we are over it by our actions. That's the plan for Russia, and it's very simple. Unfortunately, and that's the whole idea of my live stream, perhaps I did not give it to you clear enough. Unfortunately, no one in Russia is even thinking about that. They're not taking steps. They're not even thinking in that direction, okay? Jill, the fact that Russians have been sitting in the Moscow airport for days may put crimp on some travel plans. Jill, you haven't even heard of that rail service. Some apparently Ukrainian drone either bombed railroad tracks in southern Russia near Rostov, or just was shot down and fell and damaged. And there was a collapse in trains in the southern Russia. So Carlos Enrique Salas, Germans and Japanese had to face a terrible, shocking experience to abandon their imperial and superior mind. Will it be possible for Russians to abandon such mind without such pain? No. You cannot abandon this mind without pain. Well, actually, you know what? It's not about the mind. It's about the past. How could Germans abandon their past? Saying, oh, the Holocaust, okay, well, let's move on. That doesn't work like that. Same thing for the Japanese, and same thing will happen for Russians, okay? And that's what I mean. Repentance. Taking responsibility comes at price, and that price is pain. This little thing right here, on the left side, that hurts a lot. And that's kind of pain that you don't experience every day, okay? Well, perhaps it's just me. Perhaps I'm a freak, because no one around me seems to be feeling this way. Anyway, let me finish it up. Friends, thank goodness I have internet and I have electricity, so I did a live stream, okay? Usually on Wednesdays, the live stream, no chat, and I do economic update. I would like to do that again. I want to make it a weekly thing, and it's just perhaps if mods are not too busy, we could do a live stream chat tomorrow, but I don't promise that. That's up to them, depending on their schedules, because we're scheduled Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday are private stream, live stream chats. Okay, before I invite everyone to finish this live stream with a prayer, I would like to thank you again and saying that, I missed you. I missed live streaming. Well, what is live streaming? It's the live streaming chat. The chat after I end the message. This right now, what we've been doing for the past 20 minutes. It's fantastic to see everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for letting me know, asking me questions, perhaps answering to other people. This is the best community out there. You're a lifesaver. It's soothing my soul to be a part of this community. And again, thank you to the mods, and thank you to the pillars of Inside Russia. You know who you are. And thank you for everyone for coming. Thank you for being this great part of Inside Russia. It's really hard to live without this, you know that? Okay. Friends, and as usual, I invite everyone to finish the live stream with a prayer. Some people are not religious, but I am asking you to join us in prayer anyway. You can call it a different name, not a prayer, but sending good vibes, good wishes, good energy to people, to the universe. That's good enough for me. I think God doesn't really care if I call it a prayer, you call it something else. Same idea. Please join us. Thank you so much. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables and giving roofs over our heads. Thank you for the loved ones that surround us. Thank you for our families and children. And please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads peaceful and safe. Dear Lord, give us wisdom to raise our children, so when they grow up and become adults, they will make this world a better place, will never fight in any wars, and just love each other. Dear Lord, I'm asking for Ukraine. Please bring peace to the country. Help to stop the war. Ukraine and Ukrainians have suffered so much. Please answer prayers of everyone who has been affected and make their wishes come true. Help everyone who has suffered in this terrible tragedy. And I am asking you to reach out and touch the hearts and souls of those in Russia who are responsible for making this decision to stop the war. I'm asking you to fill their hearts with love, empathy, forgiveness. Soften their hearts, really. Wake them up and remind them that they're still human beings, so they make this decision to stop the bloodshed. Open their eyes so they become terrified of what they have done. Thank you. Please help my country, Russia. Assemble your strongest angels with sharpest swords. Have Saint Michael lead the angels and send this heavenly army of yours down to this earth to get rid of the demons who have hijacked Russia, who we know by their names and by their faces. Dear Lord, please send your angels, best and strongest angels, to help good Russian people to run country after the demons are gone, to make it peaceful, loving, and respecting. Please send safe travels to everyone who is traveling. Send help to everyone who is looking for asylum of any kind. Send help to those who are in trouble of any kind, and help single mothers and fathers who are struggling, trying to make ends meet, raising their children. Please send needed help their way. Dear Lord, please help all the hungry, the sick, the cold, the jobless, the homeless, the addicted, the depressed, the ones who are crying, the betrayed, the lost, the ones who are losing their faith, the ones who are going through divorces, the ones who cannot see their children, the ones who are feeling that they are left behind and abandoned. Please reach out to every needy heart and fill it with love. Show every person in need that you are right next to them. You have not abandoned them. You love them and you watch every step they take. Share your warmth with every person who is in need. Dear Lord, thank you so very much for allowing us to come together despite all the technical difficulties. Please, from now on, give ability to come together every single day so nothing extraordinary happens. And we can all come and pray together. Thank you for everyone who is praying right now, or simply along with me, or simply watching us pray. Please answer everyone's prayer and make everyone's wish come true. And dear Lord, I am asking for people who need your help. They are Victor Garishan, Oli Yun, Lee and Brenda, Greg, Daniela Fromm and her family, Janice, Rose Halbert Bronicky, Karsten, Jeff, Teresa, Ron Bazoid, Ann Larson, Hannah, Jeffrey S., his family, Katharina, Mark, Tom W., J.R. McKim, Gabing with Gary, Lisa, Harry, Terry, John, Linda, Paula, Dennis, Jason Carney, Susan, Tim, Dory, Rhonda, John, Taylor, Wayne, Darla, George Ruberty, Pamela, Meta Spencer, David Porter, and his family and everyone who is in Chernovtsi, Ukraine, Leif, Randolph, Grace, Dean Spooner, his church, Yelena, Natasha, Michael, Jake, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Igor, Svetlana, Sergey, Liz, Ron, Liz, Koshkindom, Sandra, Mike and Mike, Petra, Joseph, Melissa, Jodes, Millie, Philip, Eileen, Highwayman, Jeff Gibson, Derek Martinez, Denise Abbott, and Renate. Thank you, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Friends, thank you very much for coming. It's fantastic to see everyone. Fantastic to be in the same virtual room with you again, to share my opinion with you, to answer your question, and to pray with you. Thank you so much. We have, 200 people staying until the end of the prayer. Thank you. It's fantastic. Please come back tomorrow, the economic update, and every day after that, as usual, at Inside Russia. And yes, daily snippets still come every day. There have been a couple days missed due to technical difficulties. Thank you. You are awesome and you rock. I love you. And as usual, please say it at the end of the live stream along with me, as loud as you can, the following. Carthago delenda est.